Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae, also known as Wildbow. You can read Worm in its original format by visiting parahumans.wordpress.com or donate to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This story isn't intended for young or sensitive readers. Readers who are on the lookout for trigger warnings are advised to give Worm a pass. For a complete list, check the description for all of Worm's trigger warnings.
Good morning, Brockton Bay. Get ready to take that, you worms. It's an entire episode of season 3.
Yeah.
I always start with I literally have my breath. I'm holding it, waiting to see if Alan's gonna do something to start the episode or not. And I've got like a backup. I've got like a backup episode start just in case. And I never have to use it, which is great.
Well, what is it for today?
Do you want me to turn it over to you?
No, listen,
Shut
I've got
Chadley
gotta
with the
save-
weather. What does the weather look like in Brockton? Shut.
I've got to save those for when I need them. Got a very small.
Tease it.
When he says he has one at the ready, it's literally just one.
Yeah, it's one.
It is the suicide round. It's the one that will end the podcast immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacob,
Welcome, everybody,
teasing us.
to Season 3 recap of Dissecting Worm. Done a couple of these now. So we are continuing with the trend. Going to take a look back at the last 5 arcs, which make up our 3rd season of this hypothetical show we're constructing. So that's arcs 15 through 19.
Yay.
And as always on our recaps, we've got some familiar voices to our regular listeners. We've got both Nick and Hannah joining us. Welcome, the two of you.
Howdy.
Hi.
Thanks as always.
Yay.
And then and returning regular dissecting members, Alan and Michael, as always.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
And it's gonna be an interesting season. We got some stuff to get into. I was telling Alan yesterday, we've structured it a good bit since then, but I still think this is probably the season so far with the most room for rework and improvement. Not that I think we did poorly, because obviously we nailed it. But in general, I think we've had a lot of issues, even just talking week to week or episode to episode. We've had a lot of issues with like, do we move this? Do we cut this? How do we stretch this out? How do we pace this better? And the season's no exception. So going to be exciting to kind of get into it and hear your guys' thoughts and see if you got any feedback or immediate solutions to some of our problems we've hit, and see what we can come up with.
Exactly.
Sound like a plan?
No, that's great. Yeah. And important information, Nick and Hannah aren't loyal fans who listen week to week to their dissecting podcast. So most of this...
How dare they? Where
Most
could
of
they
this-
find how to listen to that?
I mean, we
Would
could
it be available
listen.
on all platforms?
We just prefer to wait until the we want the big recap,
Exactly.
season end
The
recap.
surprise.
Important.
Exactly.
Yeah. The important information for that is that this is all brand new to them. So I always get really excited to see what they think about all the stuff we've been working on. And also important to note, none of this is really set in stone. We definitely, if you've listened to our recaps in the past, we're still editing as we go. So don't get upset until the end. Because
Or if you do get upset, call us and leave a message at Michael. What's the number?
980-999. Oh gosh.
0438.
0438. Yes.
Oh,
wow.
man.
Good job.
Give us a call.
Yeah. So we're editing as we go.
Alan, I mean, for context, like 5 minutes before we started this, Alan and I were still like, oh, wait a minute. We gotta put that in.
Yeah. Exactly.
And made a little change. So
exactly.
it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Bear with us.
It's like last season. We'll go through some other things, but one of the things that I really wanted to keep and I talked about was like I really like Sierra and Charlotte, and I really wish that they had a fun trio of friends / coworkers together. But in truth, probably better just to cut that all together, like, and leave them as is. I just really like them, and at the end of the story, I could not like both. We just kind of forgot to put them like more in there because you know
there
not
wasn't
sort of the mainline stuff.
Yeah,
hard.
It was a packed season, even with
and this season is going to be no exception.
Oh yeah,
there's a big set of stuff that I really wanted to put in here. Some of my favorite things, but as we'll go through, it just kind of didn't have a really good place to consistently like have it.
Right.
So I think
let's dive in. I think we're ready.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. So to keep in mind previous changes that we've done in season 1, we have changed that during the bank heist, after sort of a post-credit scene, Trickster and the travelers are the ones that kidnap Dinah at the same time.
Okay.
Right.
Solid. Yeah.
Yep. I remember that.
Part of this being that, Coyle has essentially said, hey, I need you to do this. She can help get you back. Kind of the vibe there. The other things we had, season 2, more importantly, Detective Weld was out there discovering the duplicitous nature of the PRT while investigating the Slaughterhouse-9.
Yeah, but
I continue to imagine him looking somewhat like just in a trench coat. Like it's stuck in my head permanently because we call him Detective Weld all the time now.
You can't forget he's got that heavy Boston accent, Alan, that you love.
Oh my gosh,
that's right.
I try to forget that he has that heavy Boston accent. Other thing is nobody really initially knows why that the Slaughterhouse-9 are in town, other than they tend to go where like trouble is. Sort of, in the wake of the Endbringer attack, they take advantage on, weak towns, small towns, and in this case, a damaged larger city. But Weld, through going through the crime scenes, and on the flip side, Lisa just being Lisa, they eventually separately piece things together that the Slaughterhouse-9 are recruiting for new members. Also, near the middle of last season, Coyle is finally revealed to be the mysterious employer. And it's Weld who, during the meeting, when Tattletale keeps using numbers, the little moot of all the heroes and villains to deal with the Slaughterhouse-9. During that moot, it's Weld who puts together that the numbers that Tattletale's spouting off are a result of Dinah's kidnapping. And it is Taylor who puts together that Coyle has kidnapped this kid for her powers. So this is kind of when Taylor realizes what's going on. She hasn't even seen Dinah until now.
Right.
Until after this. Like she has Dinah is a conceptual thing post this. She has yet to meet Dinah. And this is how she finds out about it. The flip side, since season 1, Pigott has always had a deputy director helping out with her. His name's Thomas Calvert. He's been helping her with the Slaughterhouse-9, especially after the thing, doing all the paperwork, staying late, checking up on Pigott. He might have even helped suggest the firebombing. the Undersiders' earlier raid of the PRT in this situation wasn't to get information on the Slaughterhouse 9. It's to undermine the PRT and its director.
Okay.
Another thing we have, Lady Photon backstory and Amy's story, both are like epilogue events at the end of season 2. That like Amy going to the birdcage and all that is end of season 2. We don't mess with that in season 3. And the like final scene probably of season 2 ends with Taylor asking Tattletale, "So tell me about Dinah." Cut to black.
Hey,
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
I like.
good synopsis.
So that's everything to kind of keep in mind. Little changes we've made that'll be relevant or impactful for this season in certain fashions. So we want to kind of space this out. We have broken this season into 6 episodes. As an immediate caveat, it'll almost certainly end up being more than 6 episodes. But we're not really accounting for a lot of time that happens during action set pieces, of which there are many, and things of that nature. There's also a lot of scenes we have talked about putting in but haven't quite put in yet, just kind of as afterthoughts. So this will certainly flesh out quite a bit. But for the moment, just sort of 6 major groups of plot points, essentially. And we did do kind of one little change. Actually, I don't know if this was really necessarily intentional, but instead of kind of giving scene by scene, we're more just kind of gonna, I don't know what that accent was. We're kind of.
Too much of that Boston weld.
I know, yeah, it's on the mind. Just kind of hitting major concurrent bullet points for what's happening to kind of track the pacing and the flow of the episode, but not necessarily like cut to this, cut to that. So hopefully it's a little bit cleaner to follow.
Yeah. I don't know if you structured that. I definitely did mine to like sort of generally where you would cut back and forth, but
well, it's a bit of column, bit of column A, column B. We end the bullet point where it would make sense to cut if it's the end of the scene, but also, you'll see as we kind of get into it. It'll be a little bit simpler, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I think we're ready to dive into episode 1.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Wait. Kick it off, or do you want me?
Let's go.
Oh,
it's okay. I'll kick it off.
Yeah. I'll take the first one here. Sure.
All right.
All right. Episode 1. Starting off, Taylor finishes making costumes, plays the big bad villain in front of bitches people. The Undersiders run roughshod on the remaining Empire 88 members, including Scrub, now called Sawburn, means to purge, whom the Undersiders take as a hostage, driving them out of the city. The Victor situation, which happens during that's what normally is dealing with Victor, was a bit too complicated, not really a character that's ever really been dealt with or introduced up until this point. So you sort of just deleted that and replaced it with a more relevant figure with Scrub.
Okay.
I'll be
Taylor
honest, I did kind of forget that happened.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I completely had forgotten about that.
Yeah, and
exactly.
if I asked you right now, what purpose did Victor serve? What was his hostage situation purpose?
It was because he had a power thingy, and they were going to steal his power in order. Gru was going to steal his power in order to use it on their attack on the PRT. Is that right?
You're pretty close.
Nice.
I'll give you the point.
Yeah, that is pretty close. It's more than I remembered.
Yeah, guess what? Sorry. I'm really proud of myself for. I'm really proud of myself for remembering that. As everyone knows, I have a goldfish brain, so I'm
very
great. Proud of myself.
I was impressed.
Very proud of myself.
Yeah.
But no Victor, replacing with Scrub, just to kind of because he'll come back later.
It makes sense.
Also, I like to imagine that
at
this point they have sat it's essentially all the young, Nazis down, and they're just like, I'm disappointed in all of you, but you, Scrub, and he's like, it's Sawburn now, or Sauburn, and it's like, It's like, but you scrub, just ignore his name. Like, I expected better of you. And then, one of the other Nazi goes, he was an ex-merchant. And you're like, you know what? I don't know what I was thinking. You're right. I should expect worse from you.
Is that a name change that happens that you guys did, or that actually happens in the book?
No, we gave him a little. We gave him a little name change to fit with the Empire 88 theme. But nobody's going to take it seriously. That's kind of the joke there. So everyone's just going to call him Scrub.
Like, he's just literally hanging out with the other young people that aren't the Undersiders or the Travelers. Like,
right, got it.
All his people got killed, so he is, shit out of luck. So it's like, oh, well, come hang out with us. We're pretty cool.
Yeah,
we're all.
He's just a kid that
here.
needs a group.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But they take him hostage. So.
Mm-hmm. Moving along, Taylor remarks that this is the first time Lisa has been out in a while. Lisa remarks that Coyle likes having her around more and more. Lisa also diverges that they are all running sort of Coyle's goodwill at the moment, and they should be planning for what happens if he decides to drop them. And this is a running fear that they have through the season. Taylor and Brian talk. The miasma is revealed to leave some recognition effects. Brian trauma dumps, calls Taylor out. Taylor and Brian kiss, very back and forth, as that scene is. And Aisha and Regent call out Taylor. A little bit of tension in the group. The Undersiders, Travelers, and Coyle have their meeting, and Skitter volunteers to go with Ballistic, while also being tasked with threatening the mayor. And Dinah confirms that the plan will work if Skitter goes. Skitter and Ballistic talk about their goals. Skitter sneaks off to talk with Perian, only to get ambushed by Flechette. That whole scene. Skitter negotiates her way out of it, getting Perian to think about it, much to the chagrin of Flechette. This is all pretty much in line with how it's written in the story. And then we're going to cut and have a scene with Miss Yamada and her session with Weld. This is kind of our first little change here.
Okay.
Jacob, thank you for putting that in. I totally thought we hadn't found spots for that.
I didn't put them all in, and we're going to come back to that because it's a work in progress.
Okay. Spoiler, that was the one where I was like, man, I just don't have good places for these. I have these in order. I have which ones need to be cut. I just don't know what to do with them. And I love them. I love them so much.
I think it makes sense. You had a good point, because a lot of the Yamada interludes or an interview with each of the wards after a significant event in which they're a part of. So I think it would make sense to space them out right after those events or before the events. I forget. I got to reread them. And I think that would work just fine. It gets them in, and they are great little conversations, and they do sort of break up the rest of the kind of story building that we're doing.
And I think too, it makes sense to throw these in there, like in between as well, because hopefully by the time, if this ever were made, theoretically, by a third season, you would have bought a lot of goodwill with your audience. And so they would know that it doesn't need to be focused on Skitter all the time. Like, there's a lot of other characters they're interested in. So I could see even this being the kind of thing where they're like, wow, I wish we had more of these. Kind of like we were after we read it.
Right.
Right. Exactly. And hopefully we give them a bit more, because we do have some other ideas on that front. But continuing on after that scene, we have Taylor returns to talk with Lisa, who pulls her aside and says she's worried that Coyle is fucking with her power. She feels like this plan to threaten the mayor is a trap. The Travelers and Skitter attack the mayor's house, only to get into a fight with Triumph and Prism. Skitter threatens to let Triumph die if the mayor doesn't do what she asks. We get that whole climax. Taylor feels guilty and goes home to see her own father. And she's interrupted by Lisa calling. She tells her that Coyle knows about their plans. Skitter says she shouldn't say anything else because the phones might be tapped. But Lisa tells her that he knows about everything. And that's where we're going to end the first episode.
God damn, that is a lot packed into one episode.
So I think the one area where maybe I'm a bit confused on how you've changed it and how you'd set it up, right? So season 2 ends with Taylor asking Lisa, tell me about Dinah.
Mm-hmm.
But has it yet been established in your show that she wants to betray Coyle, rescue Dinah, and all of that? Or?
So, and this is part of this is part of what we're playing around with. And we've gone back and forth on how best to handle this in the show. So no, not really, because we have toned down Dinah's importance on Taylor's story, which runs into some issues here, which we do sort of resolve in our own way. But I think the thinking we have here is that Dinah is more a later catalyst in Taylor's decision to essentially betray Coyle, and it's less against because her whole problem with Dinah initially in season 1 in arc 7, when she learns about Dinah for the first time, is the kidnapping. It's the kidnapping and the drugging and all this kind of stuff. And when we get to this point in the story, if that's not her focus, then it's a little late in the game, Taylor, to like care about that now. You're a bit too far into this.
Yeah, I guess then my question would be, what would she be worried that Coyle would know about? Like, have you set up a different betrayal arc? Because I feel like I'm not seeing the
weight isn't there.
The weight of this, like, what does Coyle know? And why does it matter?
That's a great question.
Is that something you're leaving mysterious on purpose?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Part of this is a subterfuge between the two groups, which is very much how they work. Like, this almost isn't a battle between Taylor and Coyle. This is more of a battle between Lisa and Coyle.
Okay.
Which is very.
Actually, that's an important note, to not to cut you off there. We are changing part of the dynamic of the Undersiders and Coyle's relationship just to give Lisa a bit of a stronger character arc this season, which is that most of this struggle is between Tattletale and Coyle, not Taylor and Coyle. Taylor has her own arc here that's relatively unchanged, but the audience is going to see Tattletale struggle with Coyle as well, and we're really playing into that to give Lisa just a bit more agency in the story, a bit more to do, and so that's a bit more satisfying at the end when she takes over his whole operation, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I do love the setup that they have already, but I feel like while there are small hints way back when, I do feel like this. We're not going to be just like open-handedly being like, yes, this is what she's doing, and it's very obvious. But we're going to leave the cookie crumbs a little bigger as we build. It'll be a build to it rather than sort of out of nowhere. And if you look back, you can see the careful threads. Like, we're going to point them out a little bit more.
Cookie crumbs leading to Tattletale's takeover of Coyle's operation, you mean, right?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. It does.
And all the other things that she does. Like, because it all literally comes crashing in, with Coyle, and then also at the end of the season with the portal. Like, those are two things that are set up way in advance. But, it's... You're not, like, I don't know. I feel like they're...
Well, yeah, it does feel a bit of a Deus Ex Machina in the way it's written, just because it is from Taylor's perspective. So I could definitely see changing that a bit to make it there. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I was just a bit confused there, so I appreciate the clarification. I'll ride with it, and if I'm still confused by the end, then
this is one of the major struggles with the season. So you're caught on pretty early. And I do have some thoughts at the very, very end that I'm going to touch on. Some good insight. We've had some of our listeners that I kind of want to revisit. But this is the main problem with the season, and we'll kind of get into that.
If we tracked airtime that we talked about this, like from episode to episode, it would definitely be the most talked about thing that we've talked about this season. So good job.
In short,
good job.
Having Dinah, because we've said it before, but in short, having Dinah be on Taylor's mind for a whole season 2, in which she does nothing about it.
Yeah.
For us to come into season 3 and finally start to do something about it is weird, and better if she learns about it maybe mid-season is very quickly like distracted, but has it on her mind to ask at the end to set up for season 3. Like, okay, we need to talk about the child that we kidnapped. And that is what kicks off this, where Taylor has concerns about what's going on. Lisa, also is helping out with the and it builds. So,
right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I can
behind that.
vibe with it. Yeah.
Put a pin in it.
I'm not
we
upset
write it out
yet.
and then see what happens. Yeah.
Not upset yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Allan, would you like to do the honors for episode 2?
All right. Cold open. A chopper with a PRT team is getting ready to land. Meanwhile, back in recent times, Pigott is getting chewed out by PRT director Costa Brown and says that the help that she has sent should have already arrived. Meanwhile, Weld is in the PRT headquarters debriefing the Triumph incident with everyone when Defiant and Dragon show up. Weld wants to call out the obvious, but is talked down by Pigott. They lay out their plans to test out their new equipment on the Undersiders before they go on their Slaughterhouse 9 killing spree. Clock Blocker points out that the Undersiders are bad, but they're not like Slaughterhouse 9 bad. Dragon points out that they have information that they've received on when and where to attack. Now, Skitter, in the meantime, has a morale-boosting barbecue and hangs out with the Undersiders and the newly arrived Parian when Dragon and Defiant decide to show up. Lisa apologizes as they arrive. She's trying to get help as fast as she can. As they're running, she calls up Coil and negotiates access to the finances to buy their way out of this. So she gets on the phone and is talking the whole time, trying to get in touch with the Dragon Slayers. And Saint. Skitter gets caught by Defiant, but cuts her way out of the nano net with his nano knife. This pisses him off enough that he's distracted and bitch hits him real hard.
Get fucked.
Yeah. Back with that PRT squad, they touch down right outside the town of Ellisburg and begin their investigation, only to find out the town is empty until someone spots something creepy. Meanwhile, in present day, Coil says that he wants the dragon problem dealt with and suggests kidnapping Pigott to exchange getting the Dragon Defiant team off their backs. Travelers and Undersiders kidnap Pigott, and Pigott talks mad smack talk for a while, which throws everyone off their game, only for Lisa to call up Coil, say they're surrounded by dragon mechs. Oh, wait. Did we put that in twice, Jacob?
Oh.
Must have put that in twice.
Yep, must have done that twice.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we'll move that
Strike
to here
that,
then.
Reverse it.
So this is where she calls up and uses her access to the Dragon Slayers to get them off their back. Meanwhile, Weld argues with the Dragon Defiant team about letting Pigott get kidnapped and not going to rescue her, which they make, she knew the risks. That's not what we're about. And we're not going to be, hostage negotiating when it comes to the Slaughterhouse 9 either. Meanwhile, Calvert pops in his head and admits that she's been compromised just by being near Regent. Meanwhile, back in Ellisburg, the PRT team encounters the monsters and Nilbog and are torn apart. In present day, Taylor gets trapped by a mech, tricks her way out of it, and eventually Lisa, calls all the robots off at the same time. They're all gone. Taylor comes back to check on her people in her little territory. In Ellisburg, the remaining squad is moving to the evac only for Calvert to trigger while trying to make the decision to shoot his teammate or not. In one world, he saves Pigott himself, and the other, he dies, so obviously he picks the good one. They make it out, and we finally reveal that it is Pigott and Thomas Calvert. Meanwhile, present day, Weld and Calvert talk to the rescued Pigott. Pigott talks about how basically her career is over now, and Calvert says that he already got off the phone with Costa Brown, and for the time being, he is acting director. Now, technically, I complained about this before, but Cauldron would have already known about Coil and probably would have been the one to set him up here. Like, that's how he got the job. being a random consultant to director, but in this case, we just have him move up the chain of command. And then finally, Taylor and Brian have a nice moment that is, of course, interrupted by Lisa telling them to turn on the TV, to which they see the announcement of Thomas Calvert taking over, and Lisa just says, "That's him. That's Coyle." End of episode 2.
Nice ending.
So this seems to be taking out, at least at this point, the newsroom bombing, or is that later?
It would technically be later, but we are taking that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
I heard a lot from Hannah.
I did make a lot of sounds. Mostly because I did get a little lost in Alan's explanation. Sorry, Alan.
It's hard to track.
I will say I do like the Nilbog thing. I don't know how I feel about Coyle in this episode. I like the idea of Thomas Calvert being introduced earlier. That way we have more of a we get it, so that when the moment does hit, it's like, oh shit, because we know who the fuck he is. And I think that's great. But it feels, I don't know if it's that it feels too early in the season for this to be happening, or if it's that it just feels too obvious. Like, the second you said that he sticks his head in and is like, oh, well, she's compromised if she's anywhere near Regent. Like, immediately, even if I didn't know, like, I'd think like, oh, that's sussy wussy. Like, it's true, but it's sussy wussy. Like, there's something else.
I mean, he could be in the room and they're talking about hostage rescue, with Dragon and Defiant.
Yeah.
And he's just like, aren't we supposed to, rescue him? And he's like sitting there and he goes like, because I imagine him a very bookish nerd, literally always holding a clipboard.
Like,
and he goes like, well, according to regulation, if she's exposed to a master, then technically she's been compromised, and as of subsection B. And he's like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
We could write, obviously this is bullet points.
Yeah, of course.
You could write
we're getting
that
into
scene,
details here.
Yeah, where it's a lot more nuanced. Yeah, the big changes here were obviously giving Calvert a bit of history with Nilbog, which isn't in the original story, and also making that the day that he triggers, which we don't know when Coyle triggers. It's never stated. But we felt it would give a little bit of help in just sort of bridging the character.
I think I offered that as a possible idea, but officially he was a cauldron suit cape, right?
So I don't think so.
I was about to say, do we have
he's associated with them, but
I don't even think
information about what he
true. I think Cauldron is just has tabs on Coyle, good tabs on Coyle, and is like doing Cauldron manipulation stuff to make sure their plans work, kind of thing, which involves letting Coyle do his thing. But I don't, and maybe this was me misreading it, but I don't believe Coyle knows or is tied to Cauldron in any way.
I don't.
At some point, Thomas found out about and approached Cauldron before he bought a superpower.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wiki right
says
now.
He bought a superpower from Cauldron.
Yeah, it made a deal. Is in a lot of debt to try and pay it off.
Oh, way off.
However, I suggested that was his trigger event, so I appreciate that would be included, because I do think
we did
like
that idea.
Yeah,
feels more right. I will say, from an episode perspective, I think I would suggest, just for organization purposes, that you do the entire background first, because I think jumping between action scenes and time is going to get really, I was having a hard time following, okay, wait, you went from the only reason I could follow it is because I know what's happening already.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like jumping between action scenes will get a bit confusing. Potentially. It would be less confusing if it was visual, of course, but just listening to the story, I was kind of like, okay, wait, what just happened with the Undersiders? Where's Dragon? He just beat Defiant. Where'd Defiant go? It's kind of just like this, I don't know, it was just a bit jarring to try to follow.
Especially since
weakness of a text medium too. In
right,
that case.
and especially because you're dealing with two separate time periods. Like, I don't have anything against like basically getting to the end of something and the audience realizing like, oh shit, this is an old thing, and like we hopped back in time. But with so much going on, it could be very, like you said, it could be very confusing to be like, wait, what? Where are we? Like, is this happening at the same? And then by the time you get to the end, it's not a whoa, that's so cool reveal. It's a okay, all right, that was a lot for my brain to keep track of, only for it to be something that happened however many years ago.
Because I think usually those are done best when you have calm background scenes punctuated with modern action.
Yeah.
But if you have action back and forth, I just think it's a little bit.
I think it's a little heavy.
A little bit too much.
Yeah. Also, not to totally go back, but there's an excerpt from 8.Z, the interlude, where Coil says
Coil's interlude. Oh,
yeah,
man.
it says it had been it's on the wiki if you look at the reference notes.
Okay.
He talks about even with his ability to game the market in a way that clairvoyant precognitives couldn't detect, it'd taken him years to pay it off, maddening, frustrating endeavor. He's talking about securing his fight back, expensive price, too much of his time at a point critical to his plan. So it's alluding to Cauldron, even though it doesn't say Cauldron, but it is definitely alluding to it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I was totally off on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to say, I knew him and Accord were both Cauldron, like if not Cauldron assets, like straight up work for Cauldron.
Right.
They are essentially working with Cauldron to a level that they're, partners in crime. Like Accord's whole shtick is based on him just constantly buying stuff from Cauldron.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say I do like the idea of Coil's trigger being at that moment and having to decide. I think that's really cool. But I also think that like the idea that that Thomas Calvert basically was like, nah, fuck it, and like left people behind or shot people to get away is like it's more to like how he is as a person than necessarily like, oh, it's because of his trigger and he knew the options and so he went with the one that saved his life. It's more of like, nah, he was straight up cold-blooded when he took that shot. Like he knew what he was doing and it didn't have anything to do with his trigger. I think that hits a little harder in general, just storyline.
I would say that the moment is not like the way you would show that moment is that he has the two options in his head like happen on screen.
Like a split screen?
Yes. But the vibe would be like he literally has the option. Do I leave this guy to like slow me down and get us killed, or do I shoot him? And all the power does is show you those two options at the same time.
Yeah.
There's no like, of course he shoots the guy in cold blood, but that's not like a.
Yeah, but like the difference being that like with his powers, he knows for certain that like either he will die or he won't, as opposed to if you're actually in the moment and you don't actually know and you think to yourself
that's not something that his powers can tell him. It just gives him two different paths.
I feel like that's semantic at that point.
But yeah.
Yeah, either way though.
It's
doesn't.
good. No, it's definitely want to kind of rethink that scene a bit. Yeah. No, good insights. Good insights. I like those points.
Yeah. I think if we didn't have like, I don't think you can put all of those together at the beginning of an episode or at the end of an episode. Unless you like leave out the fact that it's Pigott and Thomas, and that he triggered there. Like you've got to leave one of those details out.
Here's an idea. Yeah, here's an idea for that then. So you have the whole Nilbog scene at the beginning, right? But leave out how Calvert got into the helicopter, right? Like maybe have the moment where he's looking back at a man and then you cut to Pigott. She jumps in, he's already in there. And they introduce themselves, we get their names, and then it cuts to modern day, maybe with a transition with Calvert in particular. And then at the end, when we hear, like in that moment where Lisa says, that's him, it flashes back then to that moment where he shoots somebody, and it shows the two options.
Oh,
that would be.
And then
sick.
I'll do
you know what I mean?
I'll do you one better. I'm about to give you guys some goosebumps. All
Do
right.
it.
So
Already
the
got
whole
them.
ready.
I'm rewriting this right now. The whole opening scene is the no box sequence, right? Calvert and Piggott. They're not named, right? But it's Calvert and Piggott, younger versions. The whole scene plays up to the end. They get to the very end. Calvert turns to fight off some monsters against the helicopter. Piggott escapes, and Calvert gets shot. End of scene. End of scene, and we see Piggott fly off, and we know Piggott's face, and we think it's some backstory with Piggott. We get to the very end of the episode. That's him. That's Coyle. Cut back to the body, but now it fades, and that reality gets washed away, and Calvert's standing there, and then hops into the helicopter.
I actually did get goosebumps.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that.
I
like that a lot.
Let's go.
That's good. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
and
the slow fade.
right there.
That's a good one. That's good.
Yeah, I just think that'll make it more cohesive, but still have the same weight at the end of that episode,
Yeah, I
which
think
is
that's
good.
good. Have we yet talked about what Coyle's power is? Do we know yet up until this point?
We have not really
We talked about
picked
that
a scene to display it.
Mm-hmm.
We want
Well,
to.
it feels like this would be a potentially cool place to do it, where we're like,
Absolutely.
oh shit, like that's fucking cool. Because, like the whole flipping the coin in the car thing always felt like a stupid way to reveal that to me. So I like this a lot better.
Yeah. We've talked about where best to reveal Coyle's power to the audience. This might be the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
I'm
good.
down with that.
I think that's a great way. I like that.
I'm here for it.
Because otherwise, I would say like literally scrap that whole thing and just figure out some way to display his power in modern day. Don't do any flashback. Or just cold open them getting in the copter and him shooting the guy.
Still a lot of fun. There's still a lot of fun moments where the audience can speculate.
Yes.
Like when, they're running from Crawler and he is very clearly asking Dinah questions that he already knows the answer to. And it's just like things like that the audience can start of, wonder what he's doing. Like, what is his power? And then to kind of see it play out. And again, that's just kind of one of the limitations of visual media in this case, is that we're not going to get that exact breakdown of a character's power unless they're like, I can do anything. I can make anything once. My name is Elite, and like, that kind of thing. It's just one of those things where so much of the show is going to be trying to guess people's powers. Right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Like Mirrodin and Chevalier here at the end. Like, we're not going to sit down and explain this knight can fold objects into one another and create super weapons. We're not going to animate it, so it's just, we could animate it. We could go the anime route.
Super move.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. We got a little ways to go.
That's great, guys. Good work. This is what.
Great insights. Great insights.
I just have one more question.
Oh yeah, please.
So are we keeping all of the dragon bots?
I think we're doing like
we're just reducing them. Maybe
we're cutting it down a bit. Yeah, but we're still doing
less less dragon bot interaction, more Defiant interaction.
Yeah, could we put Defiant back into that scene?
I do like him being there. With
that just felt right.
Dragon. It feels good to have them together. So
yeah, it just made sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think I was a little confused with the fight scene, but I'm just assuming it's like we'll do it in a way that makes sense if we did it.
Yeah. To be fair, I was reading it and I was like, was I high when I did this? I remembered that I remembered that I had the synopsis like pulled up next to it. It's worse in the original plot. Like the only difference is we're jumping back between Ellisburg and Weld, and the other one they're just constant. There's just move to the next dragon, move to the next dragon, move to the next dragon. A bunch of dragons in a row. And you're like, oh, I guess. And then we're back here and we're back to dealing with this again. Oh, and we're back with people. Now we're by ourselves. Now we're back again. Like,
yeah. Also, R16 is like it's packed with stuff. So like, plus like there's so much more.
Yeah.
With the courtroom and everything. So there's like there's a lot going on there.
Another example of works really good as a serial for every, thing to just move, which come to think of it, don't they fight almost all the dragons in one chapter?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like 2, but 2 or 3.
Which is wild.
It is wild. It feels so unbalanced. Like sure, the Undersiders are smart and they work great together, but against like 7 dragon bots,
and just winning
constantly. So you mentioned, are we still getting that scene where Taylor gets out of the dragon bot situation by doing the whole imp trick thing?
I don't think we're really. I think so. I don't think we're really changing that.
Okay, because it sounds like Allan does not like that section. I really do. I think it's fun because it shows dragons, like the parameters she has to be stuck within. Oh my God, there's a cat outside my window. Hello, kitty.
Well, I think that's kind of important for establishing later if you do have the school scene.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of an important setup there for establishing Taylor kind of figuring out how dragon works in some ways more.
True. No. That, and then I think also I just love the witty talk. You could have dragon talk through the bot with Taylor, which is a good start to like, hey, she has the witty thing of dragon. Like, more dragon talk. Because we've had a moment where Defiant talks to Skitter, and now we get a moment where Dragon talks to Skitter. And they're gonna be very different.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I want it. I'm here for it. I'm a huge dragon fan, so give me more dragon.
Can do. Coming right up. Episode 3. I'm going to get into this. As forewarning, there's a lot of bullet points here. This was mostly just not having a great place to cut this episode. I think reading this is where I was saying like there's multiple episodes of stuff here, but we're just going to get through it. Episode 3 starts with the open, Defiant and Dragon tracking down the Slaughterhouse 9, only to find that they have picked up more recruits in their wake. Dragon mentions Cauldron's involvement. Cut to Weld approaches the new director about concerns he has with the PRT's attention to the Undersiders and travelers giving opportunity for other villains to stay under the radar. He brings up Coil, and Calvert tactfully dismisses it, saying that Coil might have died or moved since the Leviathan attack. Because remember, at this point, Coil's doesn't have a presence. He doesn't really make a presence. He's
more behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
He barely had a presence before, and it was all white collar. And since all of the systems are kind of down, nothing for him to really do.
Nothing to be done. The Undersiders have a meeting and talk about their worry now that Coil is PRT director, that he might just slowly whittle all the villains out. Or he may keep them for a little longer, but who knows? They just have a bunch of uncertainty. Lisa pulls Taylor to the side and says that they should assume that he definitely knows all of their secret plans, but she also doesn't know what he's going to do next because their powers sort of conflict. She asks if Taylor really wants to save the city, and what does that look like? Cut over to Weld gets Kid Win to look into old MedTech-owned buildings. With Empire 88 gone and the city in shambles, who owns the property where the Undersiders and Travelers are? He knows where Skitter's base is and asks who owns that. Kid Win points out that it was bought not long before the Leviathan fight, and many of the surrounding buildings as well were purchased afterwards. Lots of construction happening around where no one should have been able to. Weld leaves Kid Win to find more, but Kid Win says he'll finish it right after he puts the final touches on this project for the director. Taylor hangs out with her dad and his friends at a small barbecue and beer. We get a nice little break in the normal Cape world. Taylor debates with others on the pros and cons of Skitter and her territory. She receives word from Lisa that she wants all of the Undersiders to meet up. Meanwhile, Weld goes to Regent's headquarters and watches all of the paramilitary dudes hanging around. He knows something just isn't quite right there. Where's all the gear and vehicles coming from? On the way back, he sees a convoy of PRT vans leaving headquarters. And we had a bit of a speculation here. We switched the fake betrayal to Lisa and not Skitter. Lisa's always been duplicitous. Yeah.
Duplicitous?
Duplicitous. Thank you. My English no good. And Coyle wanted to keep her anyway. So, yeah, and Alan, if you kind of want to expand on that, because I think you put that note in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I forgot I put that note in, but those were my thoughts.
Yeah.
So the big thing here being Lisa is kind of the center point of all of, for a lot of this. There's a lot of doubt thrown around Lisa, given what she's done in the past in season 1, season 2. Just small moments where, like, she kind of gives the go-ahead on things. The end of season 1 being her telling Coyle, like, she's in. When we kind of reveal that to the audience that the Undersider is working for Coyle, and that she has essentially recruited Skitter back to work for Coyle.
Right.
Also, she's been running the numbers for everyone, like all those percentages. She's been giving those out, not Coyle, which is why she kind of takes the hit for that. So, and once again, like, she knew about the numbers. She knew where they came from. She did not tell Skitter. Skitter had to ask about that. So there's a lot of Lisa not giving, she plays her cards close to the vest.
Not being forthcoming, yeah.
Not being forthcoming. So we don't actually, while she is, a very good friend that, is helping out, we don't actually know how much she's keeping from us. And there's a lot of things that she does that is very interesting in terms of, like, how she compares to Coyle, which will be a big theme of, like, how do Skitter, who is constantly having to defend herself, to Defiant, to Clockblocker, to Dragon, to her dad's friends, essentially, why she's, as Skitter, is not evil. And in this case, even though she does, villain stuff, and in this case, we also have Lisa, who's constantly doing Coyle-like things, but also essentially has to prove why she's not Coyle. A small thing that we'll get back to eventually. She has also kidnapped a child. Scrub is like, what, 14?
I think he's maybe he is. I thought he was like 16 or so, but he might be a little younger.
Yeah. But yeah,
he's a minor.
He's still a minor. Yeah, he's a minor.
Still a minor.
And they're just gonna. She's still holding him in a prison somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So moving on from there, this is where we start to divulge a bit more from the story as originally written.
Divert.
Divert. What did I say? Divulge.
You said divulge.
Yep. Divulge. Yeah. Divert. Thank you. Back to I'm in another checkbox in my English lexicon. All right.
Words to learn.
Yeah.
Divulge and diverge.
So the Undersiders arrive to the aforementioned meeting area, and everyone is there except Lisa. They're a little bit confused until Skitter senses that the PRT is lying in wait. She goes to use her bugs and is stopped by some sort of jamming signal, courtesy of Kidwin and Armsmaster, theoretically. Thomas Calvert
spoofing Armsmaster's some of his bug stopping stuff.
Yeah,
the same way he spoofed the lie detector in the story.
Yeah. Thomas Calvert steps out and coats the area with foam before they can get out, or they're just taken out individually before this. Doesn't really matter how it's done. Taylor avoids it, though, and they have a standoff. She says that she'll spill everything about Coyle, and Thomas replies that there is no Coyle, only Lisa. The gaslighting begins. He explains that Tattletale has been puppeting everything and using the Coyle facade. The heists, the kidnapping, all Lisa. He has the PRT open fire and light the house on fire. Taylor refuses to believe it. She finds and destroys the jammer. Blinded and concussed, she begins fighting an all-out battle against the PRT soldiers. Thomas drives away in a van. Finally, having escaped the burning building, she is almost caught by a PRT soldier who turns out to be Senegal, but they both have no qualms about harming each other. He shoots at her and she cuts open his suit, letting the bugs in. She holds one of the PRT drivers at gunpoint and tells him to drive. And we cut over to Weld, goes back to Kid Win, and asks what happens to all of their old PRT gear. He says that it goes into storage, and they find an empty room. And when he asks about old vehicles, he says that they are sold in auctions, yada yada. Thomas Calvert's name is all over them. Thomas is not that much further away, meeting with other vans near the waterfront. Taylor gets out to attack, but is jammed there as well. Thomas commands one of the soldiers to shoot her, but Lisa steps out of a PRT van and says, "I don't think so." Thomas flounders, trying to get the soldiers to shoot them, but Lisa reveals her plan. She got access to all of Coyle's finances through the Dragon fight, which she phoned into Dragon, and now owns all of his assets.
Ooh.
While he's distracted, Taylor hits him in the back of the knees, forcing him to kneel. Lisa gives Taylor a gun and walks around to face him. She explains that it took a while to get a grasp on his power and how it folded two realities at once. That's how he was confusing her power, because he was doing something completely differently in one reality and nothing in hers. She explains that he must have tortured her in that other reality to get all the details about their plans. Weld calls Piggott and asks how much she trusts Thomas Calvert, and she replies with her life. Weld doesn't know who to trust anymore, but tells Kid Win that they followed the chain of command for now. I'd never make now we're cutting back, yeah. I never make for a good pet, she says. You knew that. This was just a matter of who dropped who first. He explains that he has contingencies. The PRT, the travelers, all of them will come after her. Lisa shrugs and says, "We'll deal." "Not with Noel, you won't," he replies. Lisa puts a gun to his head and asks him in which reality will he be able to dodge this. And she pulls the trigger as he moves out of the way, only for Taylor to shoot him in the back of the head as soon as he does. And my thought here was that, again, maybe this is the last time we see Coyle's power. He's trying to pick a reality in which he lives, and he gets shot in both. And it's just in the primary reality that we have is the one in which Taylor's the one that pulls the trigger.
Mm.
Yeah, well, they both pull the trigger, but ours is the one where Taylor's the one that shoots him, and Lisa has fired a round just like into the ground to his, right or whatever.
Just a difference there.
Right.
And then a couple of just final bullet points for the episode. Lisa takes the gun and says that she'll take care of everything. She tells Skidder that there's a good chance she gets her wish. She opens the van door, and Dinah is inside as well. They drive away, and Skidder almost gets her home. Dinah whispers that something bad is coming. Taylor gets a phone call from Lisa. Cut to Lisa looking at the massive door ripped open in Coyle's base and saying that Coyle wasn't lying. Noel is loose. End of episode.
I like that ending.
Strong ending.
I like that ending.
Episodes.
Yeah.
That does feel like 2 episodes, though.
It does, right?
So much content.
And I think the natural split is where Calvert sets the house on fire, right?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
That's true. That's a good.
That feels like the most natural split, where it's just like he says, "There is no Coyle. She's been lying to you, and I'm sorry, Skidder, but it's time to say goodbye." Sets the house on fire. End of the episode, right? Like that would be a really good ending to that. Kind of leaving, if you don't know the story, kind of leaving. I guess not really, since we know that Coyle is Calvert at this point, but kind of a bit of suspense there. I think would be good.
Yeah.
There's one alternate for that I thought about, was that you have Lisa and him being there and her kind of going on this like it was me, the whole time, or there is no Coyle, don't you get it? And for Taylor to not buy that, like Lisa's got to be lying, and it is all a plan to get Coyle to a location in which they can kill him. But
it seems
for
more
now,
complicated.
It is a little bit more complicated, but that way it makes the Lisa betrayal a little more believable.
Honestly, I feel like we've been, like what Jacob said earlier, is like we've kind of been on this like wiffle waffle with Lisa, that like not all of her information has been correct. She's not given us all of the details, lying by omission. And so it's like, has she been like two-timing us this entire time? And I don't think it needs additional stuff, because I think if it was, it might make it feel like cheesy, like we would see that, we'd be like, oh yeah, no, something's up. Lisa's honest, like Lisa's doing something. If she was, villain monologuing, basically.
Yeah. No, I I figured this one was a more simple, strong one, and if we wanted to do an alternate, that would be.
I do have one question. You mentioned Calvert foams the group, and then all of a sudden he's burning the house down.
So I
think that was just not poorly. That was
no. Like I was struggling to find out the big thing of just like how do you get them into this battle? Because I think it would be really fun to see Taylor doing her all out. You know, she's throwing bugs, they're throwing grenades, she's pulling pins.
Yeah,
you know,
I want to see
full Taylor, and not against heroes, against literally an armed
right, where she can go all
group.
out and doesn't have to worry about the morality of the situation.
Yeah, and she's ducking and covering. She's sending clones, bug clones out, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I like that, and I couldn't figure. I hadn't clearly figured out a way to like. I even thought, do we separate every individual member and get them foamed? Is this a thing where only Taylor got singled out, and that she was the first one to get hit or something like that? Like, are they going to go base to base, or are they going to hit all the bases at once? Or
I kind of like it as it only being Taylor, because I do think, in this section in Worm, the rest of the Undersiders do kind of take a backseat to Taylor and eventually Lisa. And so I feel like reflecting that here isn't necessarily bad, right? Like it's Taylor and Lisa trying to figure out about what to do about Calvert and about Coil. And I think having him single her out in some way, and maybe even like offering to be like, hey, look, Tattletale's been lying to you. We could work together and take her down if you want. Like kind of make that offer or something, make it a one-on-one thing where it's more personal. I think that would vibe better. Because right now what's happening is you have, and I think this is just maybe something that was, accidental, of course, but you have all the Undersiders being taken out, but then the focus still remains on Taylor, and it's kind of like Chekhov's gun. Why do you have all the Undersiders there getting foamed if they're not going to do anything?
Yeah. Right.
So, absolutely. So just Taylor's lured there. I think also having you, like you were saying, having this one-on-one between him and her, which is already supposed to be the point where like, I think him saying like, hey, you could be with me and we could save the city, we could save the city, fix it up. Like we talked about, everything stays on plan. You just, you're just going to have to follow my orders and trust me, or you go with Lisa, who's basically been screwing you over this whole time. And, he's like, we could, now that I'm in charge, like, it'll be even easier. We'll definitely like, it'll be more legitimate, like everything like you wanted. And, because, you wanted to be a hero and we could even work on that. And for Taylor to say, no, like Lisa made a promise to me and I trust her. Yeah. And the conversation about like what, where she asks her, what do you want to save the city, but what does that look like? And Taylor basically like says, I want the ferry up and running. Like that's all I've ever wanted was the ferry. I just want to ride the ferry one more time.
Exactly. A good suggestion on the break point there. I think I'm going to try to restructure that and put this into 2 episodes. And we can pad that as well, but there's a lot going on here. I think that should work. Alan, you want to take the next?
4.
I'll give you the next 2 episodes. How about that, Alan? You can take the next
episode
2.
So the episode 4 is the Traveler's Arc.
So generous.
The only difference is that Krause gets the team to finally agree at the end that Cody needs to die, which they kind of already do, and then he kills him.
Oh, he kills him.
Yeah.
We are a little split on this one. I'll just throw that out there. I do agree. I think Cody basically doesn't do anything else in the story. He does. He does a little bit more in the story. But in terms of like what we would probably adapt, very, very little. So it would make sense just to kill him here. But I'm putting my personal pin in that in case we do want to come back with Cody at any point. Then obviously we'd change that here. But
yeah. I mean, that goes for anything and everything.
That's fair. That's just a
so
permanent.
You're basically keeping their whole origin the same.
Everything's the same.
Yep.
Everything's the same except instead of implying that he's given up to a cord,
They just gank him themselves.
They just gank him. Yeah, because the Cody story is so weird and to the side, and then comes back. I feel seemingly out of nowhere to do
he literally
a
does
lot of damage, but then once again, it's literally just feels like out of nowhere. So we just kill him here, and I think the importance here is for hinting at the end where this is not this is the first time the travelers have essentially had to agree to kill one of their teammates. But it won't be the last.
Yeah. That's good. Also, I will say, I immediately got excited thinking about this arc again, just because the Smurf, whatever.
Papa Smurf.
The realistic biblical angel. I thought about it and I was just like, oh yeah. Yeah.
I know it's not the same, but I saw Chaos from Hades again, and I was like, yeah, that's the Simmer.
No, this arc, this really didn't need any change. It's pretty much written.
Yeah.
It's pretty much written perfectly.
The other final thing at the end is right before we end the episode. In present day, Fault Line's crew enters that quarantine zone in Madison, Wisconsin. The other thing we switched out is instead of Matryoshka, we just straight up replaced her with Sveta.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Combining characters.
Does Matryoshka ever come back in actual Worm?
Yeah. Like mentions, but I don't.
Okay.
I was about to say, if she doesn't have an on-page, lots of, functioning dialogue and interaction with the other characters, then I am not opposed to combining them.
Yeah.
As people.
And there's other reasons why we have Sveta here, because Sveta is more of a character than Matryoshka is. So we just introduce her here, and then we'll continue on with her through the story.
Right, with her story. Yeah, that makes sense. My only question is, at the end, when the travelers decide that they need to kill Cody, do we see it, or do they just decide that it's going to happen?
They decide it's going to happen, and then Trickster goes and does it.
Trickster kills him.
In my mind, this is played out just because everything is a movie in my mind. If anyone hasn't seen the clip from Star Wars Rebels where Obi-Wan finally kills Darth Maul, spoilers for all the Star Wars fans out there. It's a very, very beautiful but quick fight in which a superior combatant dispatches a weaker opponent. Very samurai, right? And in my mind, because Cody and Trickster sort of have these opposite powers, it's very much a standoff where Cody realizes Trickster's going to try to kill him. Klaus is going to try to kill him. And so they have this moment. Cody tries to do something with his power and is just swapped places with something, right into a spike or a piece of rebar from a broken building. Just, something kind of brutal like that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just,
I've seen, as a sidebar, I've seen an analysis of that fight between old Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. And it is really brilliantly done with animation. Because Obi-Wan goes through his young pose, his older pose, or his old pose, but then he shifts into a Qui-Gon pose, sort of tricking Darth Maul into trying to do the same move that he did to Qui-Gon, right? The hit to the chin and then the jab to the stomach.
Yeah.
But this time it fails because Obi-Wan knows what's what.
Obi-Wan knows. He knows.
It's a great fight. It's one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Is it time to rewatch Star Wars?
It's never the wrong time.
I did the research real quick since we asked. Matryoshka only appears in 17, 18, and then randomly in 27.
There you go.
One chapter. And it's not even continuously. It's one mention in each arc. So
yeah. That makes sense. The one last change we would make to the Travelers interlude, I don't think we, Alan and I kind of briefly talked about this. We haven't put it in stone, but it just kind of makes sense at the very end of that, as opposed to meeting with a cord that Trickster just meets with Coil, right? Just kind of establish that connection. more directly. Just some, be a little more obvious there.
On the nose.
You want to take episode 5 and then I'll do episode 6?
No, go. I mean, I was going to say you did episode 4 so quickly. I was going to let you continue, but either way.
No, you take episode 5.
Episode 5. Weld gets off the phone and he has gathered the wards. Miss Militia brings up that the director is nowhere to be found. He tells them that the Undersiders have contacted them to warn them about Noelle. When Miss Militia challenges the validity, Clockblocker points out that the Undersiders have a track record of fighting bad guys just as good as the heroes do. Weld asks, "Where's Vista?" And everyone shrugs. Cut over to Fault Line's group is exploring where the Case 53 is reported in Madison. And I pick up that. They find Sveta and figure out a way to trap her for her own good. The Undersiders agree to some conditions in order to work with the PRT, one of which is the protection of Dinah and Tattletale, since Noelle thinks that they can fix her because Coyle told her so. This is a little bit of a change from Noelle's as-written motivations. Still kind of work in progress here, but this is going to smooth things out a little bit. Clockblocker and Skidder get into it in the van, despite Miss Militia's orders, and Clockblocker is left frustrated.
Oh, did we? Did you skip the middle one, or are we leaving that for argument? They argue that Dinah needs to stay close for her own good.
Oh wow, I did totally skip that. They argue that Dinah needs to stay close by because they will need her for this fight. Is that what I missed? Yeah.
So Dinah does not get to go home.
I was about to say, so Dinah hasn't gone home yet.
Our main reasoning, so initially we just had her going home, and then it felt a little anticlimactic and a little odd to just send her home right as this big monster is attacking the city and being like, "It's okay, home, here you go, kid, have fun, good job." So we're giving her a little bit more importance in the story and just gonna make Dinah going home like the climactic, nice, happy ending of the season. We'll get there.
Yeah,
this also in this
plays
case,
into she's still in danger.
Because the reasoning here is Noelle's going to try to get to her.
Right. Okay.
And especially if we've been sort of explaining what Noelle can do, the idea that Noelle capturing Dinah, eating her, and creating Dinah clones, like that kind of thing, just is one of those things like they kind of want to avoid. Giving Noelle access to that kind of power. So so that's a little change there. Where was I? Clockblocker is left frustrated. Fault Line's crew makes it back to the hotel where she gets a call from Tattletale, while the rest of the crew goes upstairs and packs their bags. Fault Line sees a mysterious woman go up as well. Tattletale teases Fault Line with information on Cauldron and Case 53s if she can get into contact with Saint as quickly as possible. Fault Line turns her down. The woman leaves, and Fault Line has a bad feeling. Cut over to Director Costa Brown giving orders to treat this as an A-class threat. Tattletale and Eidolon get into it, and there is clearly a divide in the room between Clockblocker, Kidwin, and Weld defending the Undersiders, and everyone else. Fault Line rushes upstairs to find her crew torn apart, and a note that says, "Stop looking into Cauldron." Fault Line then calls Tattletale back and says, "You know what? We're in." And Tattletale says, "Get back as soon as possible." The team begins to hunt down Noelle, only to run into the Vista clones, answering that question, which they kill, and Eidolon faces off against Noelle alone. Lisa observes the Triumvirate and more heroes arriving. Now it's a new S-class threat and considered codename Echidna. Skidder tries to reason with Noelle, only to be tricked and eaten and seen. End episode.
Banger episode ending again.
Yeah, good place to end it. So I'm guessing the change in the ward's skepticism towards the Undersiders.
I was going to bring that up. Perfect.
That is a pretty big change, but there is one future worm detail I know. And sorry, Hannah, if your goldfish brain missed it.
Oh no,
I forgot about it.
No.
Are you trying to set up when Taylor eventually joins the wards herself?
I do remember that.
Okay.
I am trying. I think that while they are frustrated, I think we need to show, like, preempt that there is a divide in the PRT as we're about to exacerbate.
Right.
I think that we are building off of the fact that Weld's suspicions about the PRT, while he's not going to act on them, have also infected Kid Win and Clockblocker as well. Clockblocker's sort of a contrarian to begin with, which I think, is part of why he challenges Skitter so much, is because I think it's one of those, like, nobody's going to criticize harder than the person who kind of already buys it. Like, I think that he sees the validity and he's just frustrated that Skitter is he complains about that to Yamada. Like how the fuck is she right? Like, she's a villain. How is she correct about this shit? Or maybe I'm misremembering that, but yeah, so I have those kind of in there as we're building towards that being that having a climax as well at the end of this season.
I do like having that conversation with Taylor and Clockblocker in the van, and then having that pretty quickly followed up with the divide of Clockblocker being on the side of the Undersiders, and it being like, even though we just had this conversation, like, he's still kind of in their corner. I like that. I like that happening, like, quickly, relatively back to back.
Yeah. And he could be still, butt sore about Miss
of course,
Militia,
like, be pissed,
chastising him. And he's like, why? I want answers. She's right here. What's preventing me from talking to her? Like, she's not a master. Like, there's no protocol that says I can't talk to her. And she's like, just stop. And he's like, no, fuck it. And then she's like, you're getting, bathroom cleaning duty forever. And he's like, and they get into the, like, they're super villains. And he's like, I don't know. They took out more Slaughterhouse 9 members than any of you did. Yeah.
Yep.
He's just over in the corner. Yeah, he's just over in the corner being a little salty about the whole thing.
It's also worth noting that this is a great time to, like, we just put in the one Yamada interlude, but we're going to space in those other conversations as well. And again, it's just sort of building that divide between the wards, whom the audience has hopefully grown a bit of an attachment to, and the elder PRT cauldron capes that we all want to distrust, right? So it's just, again, kind of reinforcing
bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly. You're reinforcing who your protagonists and antagonists are in the story. They don't have to agree, but they're on the same side for the audience.
I like it. Quick question. Are you going to put Clockblocker's conversation with Yamada in this episode? Because that would make sense, since we're getting a lot of Clockblocker.
That is a fantastic question.
I was having a lot of trouble figuring out where they should go. Like, I literally have, like, they have to at least go after this chapter, but before this chapter, all written down. And then I just could not find good placement. And also, it was like 10 o'clock at night, so I was tired.
Yeah. We're working on it. We'll figure it out. There's a couple, there's those. We want to show at least another scene or two with Faultline and crew so that they feel more important.
Yeah.
We want to show another scene or two with Defiant and Dragon hunting down the Slaughterhouse 9. Oh, we didn't even mention that. Well, we're absolute. Oh, wait, no, wait. We do. Sorry.
No, we have them.
Yep.
We have them show up once because this is sort of divided into the first, like, 3-second 3 situation, kind of.
Yeah.
But we have Dragon and Defiant showing up and doing their thing. They're present for what? 1, 2, 3. They at least show up in 4 of the 6 episodes, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
And then Faultline's crew also shows up in at least 3 of them. Also, the phone call in which Tattletale and What's-Her-Face are Tattletale and Faultline have is during the dragon mech fight. She calls her to get Saint's number and then gets hung up on. And we would have that happen, like, mid-fight in the other one. in an earlier episode, and then we'd, her call back to somebody else, and be doing phone calls the whole time, trying to get, essentially Saint's phone number. We're in contact with him. And then for this to be like, oh, the first person she called was Fault Line, and she's trying to get here for some reason.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Any other thoughts?
No, not particular.
Very well. Allan, do the honors.
All right. Episode 6. We open with Dragon fighting the Siberian, only for Defiant to see through his cool visor, probably heat tracking or something, to finally spot Manton and be like, "Gotcha, bastard," and then puts a spear through him. Dragon mentions that there's shit going down in Brockton Bay, but Defiant says the other heroes will deal with it. They have more Slaughterhouse 9 members to kill.
They're so close. I got him on the run.
I can taste him. Meanwhile, Taylor, tripping on that dank while inside Echidna, sees all kinds of loopy shit. Echidna engages in an all-out battle with the heroes. Miss Militia and Legend keep killing clones before they can get up. Meanwhile, Alexandria and Eidolon accidentally get touched and have to face off against their evil clones. With Tattletale's help, Weld is able to find and free Taylor and others, pulling them all to safety because he is immune to her nasty powers.
Love that.
Tattletale proceeds to drop a building on Noelle, and the gang catches their breath for a second. Now free, Taylor is cornered and questioned by Miss Militia and the Protectorate, and she spills the
every time. Every fucking time.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
It cracks me up. You're good. You're good. Continue.
And she finally spills the beans about Calvert being Coil.
Dem beans,
or the bean, singular.
Singular bean.
Scapegoat heals Taylor and sends Gru she sends Gru an imp home. Also, you can't leave out the scapegoat moment.
Yeah. No, she's blind. You gotta have it. It's so good.
Also, the moment that we, have her, she's like, "Yeah, that's what you're here for, and what I'm paying you for." You gotta have that moment.
Right. Reminder that Tattletale has deep pockets.
Yeah. Tattletale also starts picking a fight with Cauldron there, and Taylor tells her to shut up. Tattletale, on the meantime, proposes getting the travelers involved and in order to bribe them, essentially, open a door between the worlds to send them home. Or push Echidna into. Echidna reemerges and resumes fighting. Clones are everywhere as the fight rages on, and there's several fun matchups as capes fight their doppelgangers and eerie conversations are shared.
Oh my gosh, it's like that scene at the end of the Pokemon movie.
Yeah, for real.
Sorry, go on.
Which, I mean, if you're going to take from the best. Meanwhile, Tattletale finally identifies Cauldron to Fault Line. She does her whole shout out oh, Fault Line shows up with her crew and is like, all right, we're not getting paid to fight these people, but you promised us information. Tattletale's like, cool. And she just yells, Cauldron. And, the people who look, being the triumvirate or whatever, she points and goes, there's Cauldron to Fault Line. You wanted information? There they are.
Gotcha,
and she
bitch.
points at the 3. Yeah, gotcha, bitch. She points to the triumvirate. While Weld and Miss Militia are present. The Eidolon clones drops the breaking news about the involvement with the PRT, and then Mirrodin gets got by the Eidolon clone. The heavy hitters get a few good hits in against Echidna, and TikTok bisects Echidna. What?
TikTok is a combination of Taylor and Clockblocker.
That is correct.
And Insert. I can't tell if I'm here for it.
Every ship is possible. You have a bay full of these ships. Any one of them could set sail. Now, are some of these even boats? No, they're not even in the water. This one, for instance,
God damn
this
it.
one, the
These
thirst
audio
trapping
clips.
isn't even technically for Taylor. It's
How
for
long
the
does this
people
go
who are
on?
shipping these people.
I can clip it if we need to, but there
And
is
it can
Oh
go
my God.
anywhere. That's the best part. It can be
Oh
used for
my
anything.
God.
We know what you're doing,
Uh,
Alan. We know
wow.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
TikTok.
We made the mistake of looking up the shipping names, and let me tell you, there are
Was a
some that
mistake.
I really like
definitely
TikTok.
shouldn't exist. Some that are clever. I still, while this TikTok is great, I think the attack should be called Web of Time or
Oh, I like
something
Web
like
of
that.
Time.
We
That's
talked about that
fun.
before until I hear a better one. That's what
But,
their
yeah, we've
wombo
talked
about
combo
this.
is called.
I like Web of Time.
Cool.
Cool.
The difference here between is that she kind of leans down when he's injured and is like, "Hey, I just need you to do this one thing, just this one thing. I know I'm a villain. I know that we have our differences, but if I've earned any goodwill in the short time we've worked together, please, for the love of God, just use your power on the thread when I say go."
Yeah.
And
Nice.
yeah, she just gives him, instead of giving him a gun, she literally just sticks the thread, like wraps the thread around his hand, and is like, when I give the word, please, for the love of God, just do it.
I like just like
And
dropping a spider on him. Be like, hold on to this guy. It's like
Yes,
a giant,
that's
it's
even
like
Oh
a
my
giant
God.
wolf spider or something.
That's
it's
my
like,
God.
what am I holding? She's like,
No.
a friend.
That's not even a sound clip, but it will be one.
No. No.
I'm sorry, Hannah.
We should have warned him.
I mean, look, I completely understand. I hate it, but I completely
Yeah.
understand.
Like,
TikTok. So that combo, they kill Echidna or split Echidna. Meanwhile, Tattletale has finally gathered the travelers with the express deal that she will send them home. And she wheels out Scrub, who she has had captive this whole time, and using Vista's power, who is now free, they essentially stretch out his parallel world switching power to create the portal, which provides a way home for the travelers. Seeing this, the remaining travelers gather together, and we have a special moment where they finally all agree to put an end to Noelle. I'd like to think that like Ballistic is just launching an entire parking lot worth of cars at her to keep her pinned down. Genesis, makes a giant, or not Genesis. Shoot.
Labyrinth?
No, Genesis.
yeah,
Or
that's
Genesis.
Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Genesis. So Genesis uses her
Leviticus.
giant like sleeping form to, wrestle with Noelle, and finally, some dancer is able to drop the.
And if
bomb.
it's time, Michael, because this is the hot character of the episode. is
Get it. Oh, it's so good.
Finally.
What the hell?
Fuck yeah.
Every time.
this episode. Brockton Bay is drumroll Echidna on fire.
Could anything be hotter?
Could
anything
anything
be
be hotter
Oh my god.
than Sundancer's son?
Wow.
It's good shit.
In my head right now, I Want to Soak Up the Sun is playing. as,
Yeah.
Here
as,
comes the
it's been dropped in
sun.
there.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Ah!
God.
All right. Yeah.
Nice.
Continue on.
After the dust settles, the travelers sent home. The triumvirate is faced with a very angry host of capes, especially since Costa Brown has been outed in the middle of this. As the PRT director, and the rest of them kind of, spoiled that the PRT is very linked with Cauldron, and therefore all the Case 53s. Taylor, Tattletale, and Skitter kind of bounce to leave that all to deal with. Faultline's crew is there, so they have a lot of questions. Weld has a lot of questions, and they are all very pissed. Tattletale and Skitter bounce together. They catch up and have a nice moment in which Tattletale, kind of gives her backstory and talks about she essentially wanted all of this to help save the city for Taylor. for all intents and purposes, this is like a happy birthday, Taylor gift from me to you, because we're friendos.
Speaking of ships, my God.
Yeah. Ooh, what a yacht.
Oh my God.
Taylor returns home to see Danny. And in the epilogue, Emma is bopping around Brockton Bay, excited to be back in town, chatting with Sophia, who's a bitch, of course. She's not enthusiastic and warns Emma what she's returning to. The final shot, however, is Emma driving by Taylor's house, seeing her outside with her dad looking happy and strong, and Sophia's monologue playing over the scene as Emma sees that now Taylor is the sole survivor.
Okay, I have notes.
Good. That's what we want.
The sole survivor song.
Hit us with the notes.
Okay, so a couple things. It sounds like Alexandria and Eidolon get touched pretty early as opposed to later in the fight.
I do feel like they should maybe get pushed back a little bit.
Because they are such heavy hitters that like the fight would suck if they got touched earlier on. Like it'd be a lot more death and destruction.
Yeah,
the issue with them in this thing was like they essentially went toe to toe with each other's clones. I think in the other one, which I think is fair. Like they essentially cancel each other out, kind of. But that also takes out your heroes who were doing the majority of the echidna work. Also, the other thing I just realized that we did not put in there, we forgot to return Dinah.
Oh no, I had that. Oh, I must have. I did have that here. I guess maybe I got to delete.
Looks like Taylor also forgot to return Dinah.
So I actually have I have a note on that. So we'll get to that.
We forgot to place that.
No, it's okay. Because I have a note. Other question. You said Vista and Scrub at the end, not Labyrinth.
Labyrinth isn't a character in their version.
Yeah, because if you remember, we had cut Labyrinth because literally the only time, I know it is kind of sad, I like her power. The only time she is seen before this is literally in the Slaughterhouse 9 interlude. And for that interlude, we changed Burnscar's beef with Labyrinth to Fault Line. As a better character. So now we had this problem where we're like, well, that would be a little, like, to quote Nick, a little bit of some Deus Ex Machina there at the end if we just called in the portal opener at the end of the season.
Right.
So we kind of had to rework how they would get the portal open.
And I agree that the portal way they open the portal is, works within the world when you can explain it in long form. And even this one, like the Scrub Vista combo, is a little bit difficult. It's better to just have powers that you can kind of understand and have them just barely explain it. Be like, yes, he's actually switching out pieces from different worlds, and we're just having her stretch open the hole. So,
it works. I'm not happy about it, but it works.
I'm still on the fence about losing Labyrinth as a character.
Yeah,
visually she'd eat up so much of the budget.
Yeah, for sure. But also,
gotta
like,
think of the
real reason.
Animators.
When it comes to crunch time, and they're like, "Hey, dude, the lone person who works on Labyrinth, stuff. You got all that Labyrinth done?" And he's like, "Done."
I was gonna say, if we did it live action, then that would be so much work. If we did it animated, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch.
Oh, it should be. As a note, if we were writing this as like an anime style show with
leave everything
30 episode. I was gonna say 30 episode seasons.
Right.
How many fights
almost
don't
change.
End?
Just a whole season of one fight.
We haven't even gotten to the tournament arc yet.
I mean, if this is done. And some listeners have pointed that out, and commenters have said, if this is done in animation form, which even for us, I feel like that's the optimal form in which Worm is told.
Yeah.
Then you really don't end up changing much, and you just portray it as is. but that's just kind of not as fun to talk about because it just is. So,
Otherwise, we wouldn't have a second half of the podcast. It would just be, well, everything's the same. Have a nice
everything's the same. Because if you go the anime route, you just throw in your exposition directly into the script.
Yeah.
And you're happy.
Oh my gosh. And it would work so well in
like
Japan.
Attack on Titan.
Let me explain every detail that you can see.
Oh my God.
Let me over explain it to you twice and then
if we
bitch
did
about
that,
it three times.
did that, I would hate it. I would hate it so much because Alan and I are watching Attack on Titan and I've never seen it. And I fucking hate Aaron because he's like such a whiny bitch and always talks about stuff. And he's like, well, I'm a man. And I'm like, I can't deal with your bullshit. And if we had to deal with that, but Taylor being like, oh, but Dinah, I think I would die and also not watch the show if that was the case. So
I really do stand on the fact that I will stand on business.
I knew you were going to say that.
If you're goddamn right.
Point.
I will summon a JoJo stan. I will stand, and then I will stand on business on the fact that if we had to witness an anime version of the Dinah conflict within Taylor, I would. Oh my goodness!
I don't think we'd watch it.
Well, and
let me just say, I would go into some sort of comatose state from just you know what? Cut this. I'm so frustrated right now.
Well, and I think to be fair, as a parallel example, when the manga artist and author of Naruto took a break before the big time skip, they did a ton of filler episodes, and all Naruto cared about was finding Sasuke. Mm-hmm. And I mean, filler's all usually bad. There's very few good filler episodes, but these were painfully bad because almost every episode revolved around where's Sasuke? I gotta find Sasuke. So I can agree with that at least.
Don't forget, they went to that one cross-country race and got into a fight with a guy with a lightning sword on a rope bridge, and it made it was like its own aside. That wasn't about Sasuke. They just were going to a cross-country meet.
And just to clarify, before everyone hit send on that comment, if there was an anime adaptation of Worm, we're there day one. Obviously, we're gonna watch the shit out of it. But, it would be,
and I would hate
sweet.
every moment of it.
But you know what I wouldn't hate? You know what I wouldn't hate? I bet Worm would have some dope ass theme songs.
Oh my gosh, they would crush it. Fuck.
Yeah. Also, speaking of it now, just to keep us current. Some dope ass theme songs. There's some bops in anime openers and closers and whatnot, but I'll be honest, I really can't listen to most of them. Like I just go, oh, that's cool,
really,
and that's fun. Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that's kind of fun, but it's not something I'll go listen to. Like they are literally an opener for a show.
I know where you're going with
else.
this. I know where you're going with this.
Kaiju number 8.
Yeah, baby.
and it doesn't help. That One Republic did the closer, I think.
Yeah, or something. Some very popular band did the closer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's One Republic. And I was like, dang, these are bops.
I listen to that opener in the morning. Closer. In the morning when I'm trying to wake up and I need to
I think opener's Youngblood, I think is the band.
Yeah, it's Youngblood.
And I'm just like, damn, these are both really good bangers.
It's so good.
And
and the show's good too.
Worm,
Okay, back to Worm.
Nice. Back to Worm.
I have another point.
Yes.
You said Costa Brown outed. I don't remember what. Is it just that they're outed because of their connection with Cauldron?
Yeah, Costa Brown is Alexandria.
And shit. Right. Okay.
And that's also we've had her appear a lot in this season.
Yeah, just again, so that's a bit more.
Because otherwise it's just, you're Costa Brown. And it's like, well, who's heard
Costa
that name
that makes sense.
Once.
That makes sense. I like that. And then my last thought is the Emma scene. Like, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It feels like it's too much. And also, I don't care to have it at the end. So just swap it for Dinah.
Well, yeah, Dinah's going in at the end for sure. The Emma scene is really not the whole scene. I really like Sophia's monologue to Emma about strength being in the survivors and just having Emma make that connection for the audience that's what Taylor is now. It just sort of gives a nice little bow to the story. It is a little extra It's just sort of like an epilogue scene. Yeah, definitely.
My only thought is that. Oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I think it's good.
I was just gonna say my only thought with that is that I feel like this episode is already pretty long.
It is pretty packed. It's pretty packed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a.
I'm also not a huge Emma scene fan, but I'm okay with it.
I like the scene.
It's on the chopping block.
Yeah, I like.
It's on the chopping block, but I don't like. I would like to get rid of it, but I also am accepting of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking for, because that, like, what's the last scene of the season? You know, that kind of thing. That's got to be a good scene. You want the final credit to roll, and the idea of Taylor with her dad, just looking strong and happy, essentially.
Yeah,
feels good. But I'm open to suggestions for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we replace the Taylor returns home to see Danny with her returning Dinah. They're like, "Oh, thank you," and she's like, I forget what she says, like, "Don't thank me" or something like that. I think her just kind of going like, maybe not knowing what to say, because I think this is the catalyst for kicking off very conflicting feelings about being a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I think we just literally have her like turn and then kind of realize like she doesn't know what to say and walks off. Then you cut to Emma on the phone looking out the window at Brockton Bay as it stands now, post 3 sets of destruction in a row.
Yeah.
But things are being constructed now. There's a lot of stuff going on to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally, it can be the end of the conversation. She's like, well, I mean, things are getting, better here. And, we're sticking around. Like, where the hell are you? And Sophia's like, I got out of there, yada, yada. And her whole monologue about the survivor.
Right.
And then that's when we like Emma kind of like perks up out the window and we see Taylor moving boxes with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
With the new car she definitely just bought him.
Yeah.
Are we including? We're not including with the Emma thing her whole backstory, I assume.
Correct. No.
You're just gonna.
Just
leave her as unsympathetic asshole.
To fit that in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to
I'm
all
okay with that.
Valid.
I'm okay with Emma staying
a
pathetic asshole. Yeah. No. Yeah. Fuck her.
Any more notes here?
Those are my big ones.
We didn't really change a whole lot in the end here. The biggest things were giving the travelers just a bit more in the story and having all of them choose, with the exception of Trickster, having all of them choose to kill Noelle at the end, sort of as like a final little moment. Felt a little bit more appropriate. Yeah.
And
we also didn't
to mirror the whole Cody thing as well. It made tracks.
Exactly. We also didn't really explicitly put this in. Trickster still does attempt to betray everybody, does attempt to help Noelle. His capture happens off screen or off page in Worm. That's just something we'll show. We'll fit that in here somewhere. We haven't bulleted that point out yet. But he gets captured during this fight. Chevalier just says it at the end. They're like, yeah, we caught him. He's going to the birdcage. So we'll show him getting captured or something to that effect.
Okay. That was one thing I felt like got over. I was like, wait, I didn't hear that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that you want to fit that in, because I do feel like that is a big character moment for him.
And it could be, it is, yeah. And I really like that. And maybe we play it because we have kind of shifted Noelle's motivations a bit here. So maybe we play it as the Undersiders are trying to figure, or not the Undersiders, the Travelers are getting together, trying to figure out, and maybe they come together that we need to take care of Noelle. And Trickster's betrayal is really not against everybody else, but it's just against his friends. And it's a bit more. It's a bit more personal.
Hear me out. So with the Travelers have arrived. Trickster has been captured mid-fight. They break open the portal and say, "Hey, here's the portal, but the deal is you help us, put away Noelle." And Trickster is there, but he's like blindfolded, and he's like, "No, like you can't do this." And they're like, "We'll put it to a vote. Like we've got like she's got to be stopped." And he's like, "No," and he's on the ground, handcuffed and restrained, and they all vote like we got to do it. The last, of course, being Sundancer, being like, "Yeah, I guess so." They do it. he's like crying, and when they go through the portal, but they're like, "Do you want Kraus?" Like, we could probably make an exception to send him to the other world. And Ballistic goes, "Nah, keep him. We don't want him."
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
I do want to keep
If
that.
he's close enough, he can hear it, so he can hear
Yeah.
their rejection of him.
And Noelle
I
burning.
think, and Noelle burning. Oh, yeah. Fuck,
Ugh.
shit. Damn, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, it's good. I do like having Trickster on screen for more of that because
he just kind of disappears.
Yeah. He betrays everybody and then he's captured off screen and not seen from again for, if I remember right, for a pretty long time.
I think there's an interlude somewhere coming up pretty soon, but it's literally just him dropping into the birdcage and that's it.
Yeah. But so having him there for sort of, and I feel like that adds a nicer bow tie to the Traveler story, is having them.
I agree.
Kind of, especially if you do have Trickster killing Cody. I think that them kind of being like, well, we don't really like it, but we'll let you make the call. Grouse, and then he kills him, and now it's like even having him say something like, I want to go with you guys or something like that, and then being like, no, we don't want you with us anymore.
That hurts. That fucking hurts.
Yeah. So I think that something like that could be really, really cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that's good. Any other little notes? If not, I've got a couple final thoughts, but otherwise we're about wrapped up here on the recap.
Yeah. I don't know. I struggle with the idea that losing the big newsroom scene. I kind of struggle with that only because as a character, I guess in this version, we haven't seen Coil as invested as we do in the actual Worm narrative. But having him just kind of be like, he's probably not in town anymore. I don't know. It just kind of feels a bit weird. As opposed to in the actual Worm where it's like he faked his own death very obviously and pretty much everybody believed it. I don't know.
This was a hard scene. Here's the thing. I really like that scene in the story. I think it's a really fun scene. It kind of catches you off guard a bit. It's a ploy, but it's still fun to read about. It was really hard trying to pace that scene well within the story because it's such a big climactic moment, and then he's literally dead within this episode or the next episode at the latest. It's a really tricky. Yeah,
that's true.
It's really hard to pace that out. It does bring me into a point I'm going to raise here in a minute, but yeah, I agree. That was kind of a big change we made. We didn't really have a good solution for that moment, and it also it didn't work as well with the backstory and time we devoted to Calvert. It just sort of meshed with that odd in some weird ways. I agree. It is. I think that's probably one of the scenes that I think a lot of big Worm fans will take issue with rewriting.
Well,
I think
a cool scene. It is a cool scene, but also continuity wise, is he in season 2 when everybody gathers to meet and talk about the villains? Is he there?
No. Well, actually, no.
I mean, he is in real Worm. He is in real Worm. I mean, is he there in your version?
I was gonna say
That's true. I think we just assumed he was there, but I don't think we ever said anything about it.
Which meeting are we talking about, though? Are we talking about the diner meeting, or are we talking about the
the meeting where the Slaughterhouse 9 meeting? The Slaughterhouse 9 meeting. Because if the assumption is that people are saying, after Leviathan, Coil probably moved on, but a bunch of heroes literally saw him a couple of weeks ago during the Slaughterhouse 9 crisis.
Yeah, we'll have to play around with the continuity for sure.
Yeah,
making sure
that would be
that all makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with Nick on that one, by the way.
Yeah.
The whole like, oh, well, he probably left town. Like,
I mean, I'm okay with removing him from the meeting, honestly.
Well, but that meeting is like important
that changes
because
so much about that meeting and the way the Undersiders feel about him.
Right.
It already changes the thing because, well, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, I wouldn't remove from the meeting. I think you're right about that.
We'll
probably just have to kind of re-examine that scene where we talk about where Coyle's been, and just kind of play around with that for a little bit.
I think if you can, here's another option that I think would work is that if they were like, well, reports have seen him up in New York with some activity up there. He seems to be buying up property and trying to move in on the villain scene there. Something, and then like maybe even having that as like a background news story, or something, just something that proves he's moved out of town. It can still be the whole body double situation. That's fine. But rather than having him faking his own death, it's like, oh, he's just
kind of left.
After the Slaughterhouse 9, he moved on to a new town, and here's the evidence he has.
Yeah, well, when I put that, like, he, Thomas Calvert just kind of like waves it off. Like, that was originally what I said. Like, he just goes like, oh, like, I mean, we have more pressing matters, or like, maybe he's dead, or maybe he moved. Like, it literally is just a placeholder for him deflecting somehow. Like, well, that's cool. Like, is he doing anything right now? And Weld's like, well, no. And he's like, then we have bigger fish to fry. Like,
and you could even change that to be like, is he in Brockton Bay right now? No, he's in New York or Boston or wherever you want to put him.
Yeah.
Just as a way to say, no, he's out of town. We have the evidence that he is. And like, that, right, Weld? And he's like, yeah, but something feels off. I think that would be better. And I just like to get, I guess, specific on that, especially since I was worried it was a continuity issue with that meeting with the Slaughterhouse 9 arc.
That's a great explanation.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. And continuity is going to be a major thing we have to keep track of because of what we're changing. So yeah, it's good to
good companies hire people to take care of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Disney? That's right, Disney. You say who you're targeting there. Yeah. Exactly. On that note, though.
Yeah,
that actually does bridge well. Unless you have another bullet point. I don't want to cut you off.
I was trying to think if there was anything. I think that was the one thing that stood out to me.
Okay. Well, on that note, that does tie in very well to my last point, which is just we record these episodes several weeks in advance, just for Michael's own sanity, so that he has time to edit them. But what that does mean is that as older episodes come out, we get a lot of really good ideas and feedback from listeners that we don't get to incorporate until much later, because
shout out to Sleepy Stapler, who has provided some great ones in the past.
Yeah, we've had a lot of really good, like little ideas and comments over the weeks. So I had two thoughts, because I had posed a question to a couple commenters on a Reddit post about how to handle what we've kind of talked about, the Dinah problem of motivation and the pacing and her being kind of left forgotten for a season, that whole thing, right? How to deal with that, and got two very different answers, which was kind of funny. And they both sort of tie into the same scene that you were talking about, Nick. So the first was from the user Husser on Reddit, who suggested, who is not really a fan of stretching out the Slaughterhouse 9 and not really a fan of the Echidna fight, and suggested that we just condense season 2 and 3 in our version to just season 2. Slaughterhouse 9 being the first half, and then do everything with Coyle, putting more emphasis on the newsroom scene and all of that whole scene, and then like the final episode being the Echidna fight, and then actually they even suggested extending the season past that to the next arc or two, and actually ending it a bit further down the line, which was just really interesting to read. Obviously, we've gone a very different direction, but a totally different way of framing the season, with just like essentially two arcs within the season. The first arc being the Slaughterhouse 9, second arc being Coyle and Echidna all in one, which would solve our problem.
Yeah, we're about to move in what I like to call like sort of an empty arc, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, imagine if we moved into this with Coyle still alive and still in charge, like it would be pretty interesting, but not, like not very completely out of the way at all.
And the two problems that solved was feeling like Coyle is axed too early or kind of caught off guard. Because in this version, Coyle would be present through most of season 2. And it also kind of resolves our issue with Dinah being forgotten. we just show more of her, or she's only not seen for the first couple episodes of the season, but it's more prominent later on. So it's an interesting solution. Again, just kind of a funny way.
Yeah.
Lots of different ways to kind of think about how we break things up.
Small
And
things
then-
I was thinking about with the Dinah thing too is essentially having a scene just once that we show Lisa sneaking in and talking to Dinah and asking her questions. And just basically implying that this will not be the last time that she sneaks in and asks Dinah questions. Like, hey, what is the percentage I fuck over Coil in the future? You know, stuff over like that I succeed with pulling this off.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just throw that in there. And then also we've kind of separated this season into two smaller arcs. There is the first 3 episodes, which is the Coil, you know, part, and the last 3, which are the Echidna fight. And I think having them set up as their own 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 makes them like, even though it happens mid-season for Coil to die, it does feel like the conclusion of a small arc as opposed to kind of a weird rush. Pacing wise, just as a arc in the middle of a bunch of other arcs.
And then the last suggestion was just from user WolfTamer9, who made the first suggestion that we just don't condense the story as much and use more episodes, which is very valid. We've put the restriction on ourselves to just do like essentially 10-ish episodes a season. But don't let me forget, I have a fun challenge for Nick and Hannah here I want to get to. But yeah, that would obviously work. And then they also said that they just kind of funny said, "Oh, I think you could at least make 5 episodes out of arc 15 and 16, which is the Coil everything." And
I mean, you could.
You definitely could.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you're stretching out episodes, you probably could do it that way. And again, that would kind of resolve some of our issues.
Yeah, and if it were an anime, they would.
If it were an anime, 15 episodes.
I think of the Naruto fight where they're like post one of their graduation challenges and they're like chasing down the snake guy. I'm not going to remember any of the names, but like
that's fine.
They stop
Orochimaru.
like and Orochimaru, and they fight like every one of his guys that's like chasing them, and each one of them is like a 5-episode battle. It felt like I might be wrong, but like
it feels like it.
Like
some of those were filler
stop
episodes.
That was my
the actual things that were in the manga were really strong and fast paced generally.
Well,
Anyways,
like there's the one guy who has who does the 8 trigrams, 64 poems. That guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like he stops and has the like literally a standstill with the one guy for it might be 2 episodes. It felt like 5. I'll just say that right now. And imagine if you had to do that with every single dragon mech.
Yeah.
Some I think that
while
okay.
I mean I will say that while generally with Worm, I would say that I would enjoy more content over less. I think that would apply solely to the one idea of combining the Slaughterhouse 9 and Echidna arcs. Just because I really like the Slaughterhouse 9. I think that they function as really good, really great villains for an arc. And I would hate to see their story just get condensed and mixed in with Coil and Echidna, right?
Yeah.
That's just my feeling, but obviously, everybody has their own preferences, so.
Yeah, and that's why I highlighted those, because I thought they were just fun ways of very different routes than we've chosen to go, but just kind of obviously it's going to be one of those things where it all depends on formatting and everything like that and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of different ideas out there. It's fun. We love reading comments like that.
Yeah.
We love hearing suggestions, so keep them coming. Again,
it's very
just a couple
fun.
of us here. Yeah.
I'm not the one commenting for Reddit stuff, but I do read everything because to me, like it's really cool that we actually have people that are engaging with us in this content, and the idea that like even if you don't agree with the choices that are being made in regards to like the show for Dissecting Worm, because obviously not everyone agrees. Like to me, it is so freaking cool that this like worm community is so tight knit. Like we're so, I don't know, united on the front of Worm and Wild Bill's works in general. And like, even if we don't all agree, like I still greatly enjoy reading all the comments and like the back and forth. And
it's so
like,
fun.
Oh my gosh, it's really cool to be part of. Like, it feels like I'm part of a special little club of like people who have read Worm and who like know the story and who are excited about it. And like even defending the whole like, don't cut this. Like, why are you cutting that? Like this, why would you do that? Like, completely understandable. Like, I don't want to cut anything either. but yeah, it's just it's super great. And by the way, if anyone wants to like really get into it and like really yell at us and use your outside voice, you can just leave us a voicemail. We're more than happy to listen and maybe play it on the podcast. You can leave us a voicemail at 980-999-0438. Please do so. We want to hear you guys. You guys are the bomb.
And reach out to us at we're at Brockton Bay BC on all platforms, social media platforms, Reddit, Instagram.
Most active on Reddit, most not active on Instagram.
Yeah, for real.
My bad.
We are everywhere.
Reddit and YouTube are the main spots.
Those are the big ones. Those are the big ones that we read and see and interact with.
And you can just click the link in the description if you're already here.
There you go. Already there. So with that, I think we're about done. I did want to leave one fun little thought.
Yeah.
Alan and I talked about this briefly in our last episode for Dissecting
Worm. We're doing
Worm.
this now?
Well, I'm just going to plug it now. I thought it felt like a good time.
So
you have, you're tasked. Hollywood executive comes to you, just bought the rights to Worm. And they said, here's Worm. We're doing a film trilogy. Break it up for us. What cuts?
All of Worm?
All of Worm in 3 movies?
In 3 movies.
Jeez.
2 to 2.5 hours each movie. How are you breaking it up? What stays?
That's why Alan was like, we're doing this now.
I will say, as someone who does not remember what happens even in the next arc that we're reading, I have no
That's okay, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no wrong answer here because there's no right answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, that's a tough one.
I honestly, my thought was that I was going to post this and then we'd come back to it, not to put you on the spot. But
okay, thank God. Yeah, no, I could think about it.
Here's my initial
Patreon
thoughts, right?
special.
Oh.
Here's available only on Patreon. Find out what Nick's going to say.
No.
We'll revisit this thought experiment at the very end of the story.
At the very end of Worm?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try to do it in one movie.
I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about the end of Worm. Holy shit.
Is it bedtime?
It is bedtime. Thank you all for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hannah, Nick, thanks for joining us. Love hearing your thoughts.
Thanks for having us.
Some great thoughts, great insight, caught things we missed. So definitely have some work to do as always. We're going to make some notes, make some edits, and continue on.
Very productive
Michael?
session.
Yeah, thanks for making us sound good. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We've already given our shout outs.
Disappointed our people less than before, so I'm happy.
I think so. I think a few big changes, but not quite as no pitchforks just yet. I think we're okay.
Hopefully not. We'll find out.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Put some pitchforks in the comments if we're wrong. And we do appreciate all of our listeners. We really do. Thank you for listening. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, any solutions to problems that we raised that you didn't like our answers to. Give us some other answers. We'll read them all. We'll talk about them. And give us a call. Reach out to us on all social media platforms. And take that, you worms.
So we cut Coil.
So
Thank you so much for listening. Read along with us at parahumans.wordpress.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you love? What did you hate? Anything you think we missed, etc., as long as it's kind. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit at Brocktonbaybc, or click the link in the description.